Hi besties. The reason I started this channel was so that I could either rant or rave about a specific book that I had read, as well as so that I would kind of have a video diary of what I felt about the book, what I liked or what I didn't like, because I have a really bad memory. So it's it has been helpful for me, and that was the plan, that it would be helpful for me to remember what books I had read, because first of all, reading it isn't enough for me. Writing it down, it's a little bit harder for me to write about it because I don't have the same motivation. As there's something about making a video. Sometimes I write out what I'm going to say a little bit or have notes about it, or I do some kind of research or something, which really helps. And then I have to record the video, and then I have to edit it, and then it feels like it's like in there. I have not forgotten nearly as much on the books that I have talked about versus the books that I have not talked about. So that's the reason why I started making these videos. Well, sometimes I feel like I don't have quite enough to say about a book. Like sometimes I just don't like it, and that's fine. But it is the same problem happens, that then I forget why I didn't even like the book. So I read a book recently that I did not like. I've actually read so many books I haven't liked. I've been on a reel, like things have not been going well book-wise. But this book specifically, I did not like. And I read the whole thing. I actually read it in one day, which is very weird for me. Only 250 pages, so it wasn't that crazy. But this book is going to be, it's our book club book from my book club. One of the other ladies suggested this book. She had read it before and she really liked it. So awkward. But so it's called, as you saw from the title, it's called The Salt Path by Raynor Winn. It is a true story. It's kind of memoir style, first person, and it's about a couple who loses their home in a kind of like a business deal gone bad with one of their friends. It was like totally not their fault. But they lose their home. They have 2 kids that are in college, and they have nothing, and they have horrible credit, so they can't like get anything. And also their home was kind of their livelihood because they had a farm, and like a little farm. And then they also had kind of like a Airbnb type thing in their house or on their farm or something. So this was their livelihood, plus her husband hasn't been doing well, so he hadn't been working, so he did not have a separate job. And he also, that same week, was diagnosed with a terminal illness called CBD. I don't remember what the whole thing was, but it was going to result in his death. And he was getting worse. His really horrible muscle stiffness is what it causes. So they're going to be homeless, and she says, like, out of the blue, she's like, let's go walk. They live in Wales, by the way. Let's go walk the coastal path on the southwestern coast of the UK. And so they start in Wales, and they like go, wait, do they live in Wales? I'm forgetting. Anyway, I'm forgetting where they were living. I actually don't remember, because there was some talk about doing the walk backwards. And anyway, point is that they go on this walk, and it's illegal to camp in the UK. Wild camping is not allowed, but it's like kind of a gray area maybe. So they decide to just go on. They're 50. They're both 50 years old. So they walk. They just go walking. Now, if that sounds like, how is she going to make that interesting? Exactly. I thought it was really interesting to talk about losing their house and the terminal illness that he had, but neither of those things were, okay, well, the house, she did talk about. The illness, I just felt like it was about the walking. It wasn't about their lives or anything. Up until about 50% or so of the book, maybe a little bit later, people kept mistaking her husband for somebody like famous, a poet who was also doing this walk, but like getting charity and like doing some poetry readings throughout the way. They kept thinking that it was him, and so people would be like, oh, hope you're making good money. Oh, like, what's your character now? Or they would like invite them to dinner or like offer them stuff because they thought that he was this guy who was like kind of famously going along this path. It really read like somebody in their real life, maybe one of their siblings or one of their friends, was making their whole thing public. So it kind of felt like people were like, oh, I know who you are, because somebody had like posted about their situation on social media and was like following them, and or was, you know, posting this and that, or getting some kind of charity for them or whatever. Because their situation, I mean, you heard it. It's like they lost their house and he found out he had a terminal illness in 1 week, and now they're going on a walk, which is a walk that people normally do for charity. It's like everything was set up so that it would, like, that was actually the case. However, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe they're going to find this out. They're going to find out, like, oh my God, we actually have, like, I kept expecting when they check their bank account balance that there would be like a ton of money in there. I'd be like, oh my God, somebody is like, you know, somebody's telling our story or whatever. So up until 50%, I was like getting ready for it. Well, then they see a pamphlet for the guy who's walking the walk the same time they are, who's a poet. And it's like it's just some dude. That's not the husband. It's nobody. It's some random guy. And so then I was like, oh, it felt so purposeless after that, because it was like, they really are just two people who are walking with no plan. Like, it was making me nervous because they had no plan, but they were not so nervous about it. So then they have to stop for the winter, and they live in the shed of one of their friends, and they fix up the shed instead of paying rent. And then they go back to walk again because they kind of like got addicted to it. And the thing is that her husband gets better when he's walking. And it seemed like pretty obvious to me that he was getting better because he was doing like extreme resistance exercise, because he's backpacking. And so it was like, okay, it makes a lot of, I wasn't surprised at all that he got better. He wasn't like better, because when they stopped walking, it was like right back to as bad as it had been. But I think they came to a conclusion of like that they would just kind of keep walking whenever they could, type of situation. But there were some things about the story that really bothered me, okay? And that made it like, I was not relating with them. I was not thinking like, dang, this is crazy. I mean, in the beginning I was kind of interested because I was thinking like, I have heard that people, you know, lose their house all of a sudden. Not like they lose their job and it's like, well, we're going to lose our house at some point because we can't pay the mortgage, and then they get kicked out, you know. But like actually people losing their house, and it's like they're on the streets. I have heard of that happening, but I didn't know like a specific situation where that really would have happened. So it was kind of, you know, it was eye-opening and interesting to hear about that part of it. But that went on for like, I think she didn't want to put their friend on blast who they had done business with, but it was literally like one paragraph about how they lost their house, and then there was a little bit about the court situation, which also didn't make that much sense. But, okay, so they're like middle-class people that have a really nice house that they fixed up themselves. They have a farm. They have a ton of friends. They both went to college. The number one thing that frustrated me, and here's my Goodreads review. She put herself separately than all the other homeless people that they saw. So they did go through Liverpool or something. They went through a big-ish city, and there was like homeless people who were not backpacking, and they met them, and it was like she just couldn't help but separate them. Be like, we're not really homeless. We're like homeless backpackers. We're not really homeless. We just lost our house and everything that we have. And it's like, what do you think? How do you think people become homeless? They lose their house. It's that simple. All I'm saying is that it's like, you really had to write a book about being homeless, and the whole time you're writing it, you're talking down on other homeless people. Not you, but just the other ones. Like, it was just annoying, because it was like, you're not different. Like, stop talking like you're better than them. You're literally, it's the same. You lost your freaking house. You are living outside. I don't know how else to... Anyway, so that was frustrating. The next thing that was frustrating was that I just didn't understand how I was not understanding why they couldn't just get a regular entry-level job at any random place. They had a address. They were using somebody's address, his brother, somebody's address, because they had to have an address to send, not to send the money to, but he was getting a little tiny bit of government assistance for like literally 30 pounds a week or something. And they had to have an address for it to be put in their account. So they did have an address. So I'm thinking, okay, so just use that address for your, like, potentially a job. And they had a ton of friends who did let them stay with them. And both of them had experience. It was like, are you like, think you also are too good to like get a job at a shop or whatever? Like, it wasn't like they had nowhere to turn. They have kids. Then they also have family. They also have friends who they did ask. It wasn't like people they didn't want to ask favors of. They asked favors. They left their van at somebody's house. They put a bunch of their furniture in somebody else's barn. They had friends who were like willing to help them out. So it was like, why couldn't you say, hey, to your friend, can I use your address for this job? Or can I like use your shower? It was almost like they were cosplaying homelessness. There was never any indication that it was like, we're going to figure this out right now. It was like, let's go walk. It's like, that's your first reaction is like, go walk? And she did say once or twice, she was like, what am I doing? Like, my husband has like this illness. He could be getting worse. What am I doing? This is a horrible idea. It was like, there wasn't any, okay, so he did end up getting a little bit better when they were walking, and they found that out. And that was a good thing that came of it. But she didn't act like that was the purpose of their walk. Like, that was the lesson of their walk. It was like, wow, it was all meant to be. Like, I had this stupid idea to go walk when we lost our house, and then like, oh my God, my husband got better. She did not act like that. She acted like she like found herself while they were walking. However, nothing changed. She didn't have any... Her husband in the end was like, oh, I should retrain because I can't be doing physical labor, because he had kind of a physical job, or he was like, his specialty was kind of a physical thing. So he couldn't be doing that anymore. So he's like, I got to retrain. I got to go back to school. And so he applied and he got a loan. And so they were just going to live off the loan in student housing, and that was going to be that. And, and then he was going to retrain and get some different job. But it was like, and she was like, and then I'm going to get some job. I was like, get some job right now. I didn't understand. And then it was still like, she was acting like he was going to be the breadwinner. It's like, it's time to step up, lady. He is going to be declining. Step up. Plus, the winter when they were not walking, he got way worse. It was like, okay, so you're expecting him to what? Go to school full time for, I don't know, 2 years? While you like have some little part-time job and you live off this loan? Like, you're the one who needs to be going to school. If one of you needs to retrain, it's you. Because you're the one who needs to be working. Anyway, it was very me. I what am I going to do without him? What am I going to do when he dies? It's not him, it's us. It's like, no. He's the one who's gonna decline, not you. You're gonna be fine. Literally, physically, you will be fine. So you need to get a job. There are, I don't want to say sequels, but she has a couple other books that I'm assuming take place after this book. I have no interest in reading them. Okay, anyway, I'm being hard on them. This is what happened, so I shouldn't. But the point is, it didn't need to be a book. It didn't need to be a book. There was no, I would have loved to read the book from his point of view. But from her point of view, there was nothing. It was a drag. I would be shocked to hear those sentiments from somebody my age, because it's like, and it's not just like she was like at home being a stay-at-home mom, like she was also working, but she just had this idea like, well, I can't function without my husband, so he has to do the stuff. It's like, he's dying. Get a job. Okay? Be the breadwinner. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. So it was hard for me to relate with, as well as hard for me to be sympathetic with this attitude that I would never. Anyway, so, if you've read this book, what did you think of it? It's not that popular. I saw it has about 70,000 reviews on Goodreads, and it's not so new. This is actually the first memoir that I've read that was like kind of a fail to me. Like I didn't get anything out of it. I almost never read nonfiction, but when I do, it's a memoir, and it's usually like really good. So what the heck? But I can't wait to talk about a book that I liked more than this one. And so that's all I have to say. Yeah, so I'll see you next time.